This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. It's April Fool's Day, and in celebration of April Fool's Day, which I've always felt like was a celebration of stupid, let's talk about some of the dumbest, pointless controversies about the Browns from this past calendar year. And boy, oh boy, there are so many of them on here. Let's talk about when people were legitimately, this happened in multiple different ways, talking about when Jacoby Brissett was out there, playing well, mind you, people said we should put Josh Dobbs in. And don't lie, some of you watching this video left them comments in there. Okay, that was one level of stupid. The next level of stupid was when Deshaun Watson was in there and people were legitimately making the argument for Jacoby Brissett to start over him. Now, I'm not just going to say something is stupid without explaining why it's dumb. But I feel like this one is so dumb, it's self-evident. But I'll explain either way. If you trade 3 first-round picks for a quarterback and then sign him to a $230 million deal, and he gets suspended for the first 11 games, and you aren't in real playoff contention in those last 6 games, does it make sense to not have the guy play? Well, the argument was, hey, Quincy, Deshaun Watson's going to be rusty. Jacoby Brissett's not. He's been playing. We should have Jacoby Brissett play. The counter argument, which again, I feel like is obvious, is yes, Deshaun Watson's rusty. He needs to shake off the rust. Would you rather him do it in the 6 games at the end of this season that did not matter versus the first 6 games of next season that are going to matter? But that argument was out there. Another version of this argument that honestly, fans didn't say this as much as beat reporters said this dumb shit, which was the ideal that Baker Mayfield should start for the Cleveland Browns for the first 11 games of the season. This is back before the Browns traded Baker Mayfield. But what? Like, there are some takes that you hear from sports talk personalities, that you hear from people on Twitter, just in general, that make me feel as if people are not aware that human beings are involved with playing football. And that is one of those takes, because that take only makes sense if you're playing Madden. That take only makes sense if you are ignoring everything else. That take only makes sense if you have ignored Baker Mayfield's conduct for the last 3 months that he was a Cleveland Browns. Like, that take makes no sense if you're actually living in reality. The clear situation was, one, Baker Mayfield decided to not play the last game of the season the year before. Some would call that quitting on the team. And then put out a letter in the offseason after the team had interest in other quarterbacks, talk about how he don't want to play here no more or play with this team anymore or whatever. And that was it. He was never going to play again for the Cleveland Browns. The second he hit send on that letter, it was a wrap. He was never playing again. But y'all really talked yourselves into this. By the way, give an honorable mention to everybody who wanted to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. Remember that? Y'all wanted to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo? Remember that? How did that work out for San Francisco? Oh, yeah, wait. They ended up having to play the 7th round pick in the NFL draft, who ended up being better than Jimmy Garoppolo because Jimmy Garoppolo ain't that good. I want my receipts for everybody who made fun of me when I said, and I was right in this, that Jacoby Brissett is better than Jimmy Garoppolo. People acted like that was such a ridiculous take. It was the right take. It was the right take before this season, and it was the right take now. Like it's that was a hilarious one. So all of the quarterback gate acting as if Watson wasn't going to be the starter, that was really dumb to me. Okay. Another one that goes into the most ridiculous controversy that I can't believe we were arguing legitimately was the people who wanted to trade Myles Garrett. Now, look, this isn't number one or my most egregious dumb take of the season, because it really wasn't that many people saying that. It really was like one or two idiots with a megaphone that were saying this. But trading Myles Garrett is stupid. It is unfathomably stupid. There's one Myles Garrett. There's like one Myles Garrett in the draft every like 8 years. Trading him would be stupid. You're not going to find somebody who has the sack production. You're not going to add it up by getting other guys. Like, it's dumb. And the reason I think this is so egregiously stupid coming from this fan base, have we learned nothing from the Julio Jones trade? Have we learned nothing from every first round trade back that this franchise has done in the last 23 years? Have we learned absolutely nothing? Like, we sit here and watch us go, well, we're not going to get the big prospect in the top 5. We're going to trade back for more prospects, and it always bites us in the ass. And then we get Myles Garrett, and we're like, well, why don't we trade him for more draft picks, as if this has not bit us in the ass 5 times before? 5 times. 5. It's so many times that we have done this, and it has never worked out. But yet, even in this video where I'm pointing this out, without failure, there's going to be somebody in the comment section that says, hey, Q, trading back's really not that bad of an idea. You should trade back for more picks in the top 100 and instead of taking somebody you know is really good. Or you should trade your really good players for somebody in the top 100 just to get a chance to get somebody who might be half as good as the really good player that you traded. Like, what? What? This team hasn't had a player like Myles Garrett in years. Decades. Like, the closest thing to him is Joe Thomas, a Hall of Famer. And people wanted to trade him. Why? I don't know. I can't explain the stupidity in this text. And maybe this is me just blowing off some steam from the dumb stuff that I hear and read. And look, I'm going to be honest. It's not like a 50-50 good things, bad things. When I read through the comments, it's usually like 25% of dumb in the comments and then 75% of reasonable in the comment section. So I don't want to make it seem like everybody in the comments is saying ridiculous stuff all the time. But that 25%, it's not just that they're wrong, right? That being wrong is one thing. It is the absolute confidence in being wrong that they have. That is based off of nothing. Based off of no football knowledge, it's just confidence in dumb shit. And I can't understand it. I really can't understand it. Like, if I speak confidently about something, it's because there are numbers and data and processes that I went through to be confident in my intelligence about this situation. That's where my confidence comes. Some people just be confident for no reason. It's just unearned confidence, which is arrogance at that point, which is ridiculous. All right. And the number one controversy that was ultimately stupid. And it's only on here, not because trading Nick Chubb is dumber than trading Myles Garrett, because trading Myles Garrett is dumb. It's the amount of people, respectable people too, that were willing to stand 10 toes down on what was obviously a brain dead take. Here's why trading Nick Chubb is a bad idea if you really need me to explain it. 1, Nick Chubb plays running back. 2, Nick Chubb doesn't make that much money. And 3, Nick Chubb is Nick Chubb. So on one hand, if you're the Cleveland Browns right now, you have an asset that's not going to get a lot of value in the trade market, but is incredibly valuable to your football team, who's also not that expensive. And you would trade him to a team that would value him less, value and give you less value for him because of that. For what? And the answer was, and I'm quoting people I respect, who said, well, you get to save $13 million in cap space this year, $12 or $13 million in cap space the next year, and you get something back for a player that you want to get. And they thought that he would get a second round pick, even though the history of running back trades says unless Nick Chubb becomes a much better route runner, you ain't getting a second round pick for Nick Chubb. You're probably getting a 4th round pick and you're saving $13 million in cap. I don't think it's crazy for me and a lot of Browns fans to say, well, I'd just rather have Nick Chubb to that deal. Even if it was a second round pick, I'd rather have Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's an all-pro. Like, we forget so often. And like, this is the problem that I do have with some people who are so dogmatic about analytics. And I like analytics. I like numbers. I like using those numbers in my arguments. I don't think analytics is this boogeyman. And by the way, that's something we can add in there. The whole analytical boogeyman thing that ESPN 850 was doing, that was pretty stupid. But I don't think the analytics are this thing to be afraid of. I think they're a thing that can really help you. But like, look at the Eagles, look at the Chiefs. I mean, those are 2 of the best franchises in NFL. They heavily use analytics. So the idea that it doesn't help you win games is stupid. Like, it's clearly there. But when we get so wrapped up in the analytics, it makes me ask the question, what's the goal? Because sometimes it feels like analytics, or at least when you follow these numbers super hard, we forget that they're guardrails. Guardrails are there so that a novice doesn't mess up. But if you are an expert, you should be able to operate outside the guardrails every once in a while, right? So there's that element of it where we put up these guardrails, but what are the point of these guardrails if everybody's not making decisions, if it's just a couple of people who you trust making decisions, right? So if they were sending, and what I mean by that is like, Andrew Berry's an expert, certified expert. He does not need guardrails to make a decision. Me or you, if we were general manager, we need those guardrails because we're just regular people. We're not experts in that field, or at least experts with the experience that Andrew Berry has in that field. Okay, so there's that element of it. Then the other element of, well, you want more draft picks so you can resupply the roster and maintain a decent level of play. But is the goal to be decent, or is the goal to be really good for a couple of years to try and win a Super Bowl? That's the thing that analytics, if you just follow it, you'll be a decent team for a long time, but you won't win anything. Because sometimes you just need to go all in. And if you need to look at a franchise that did this to themselves and has ended up in a horrible situation, look no further than Baltimore, who analytic themselves into mediocrity, right? They like literally, this is where it could go wrong. Everybody looks at the Browns and think we go too far with it. The one team I've seen go too far with it is Baltimore. Because if you look at how they operate, it's very clear, right? So Baltimore in 2019, 14-2, looked like they were going to be Super Bowl contenders for the next 5 years. They got worse every year after that. Why? Because they were trying to get value here, and they were getting rid of good players, right? They traded Orlando Brown. They traded a number of first-round picks to get draft picks and value, right? And what they ended up doing was taking good players off their teams for chances to get good players in the draft. And maybe they're successful, maybe they're not. But each year, inch by inch, as they got more assets, the team got a little bit worse, right? And a little bit worse here. And then a little bit worse here. And then you look around, it's 2022, and the Ravens are happy to be battling in the first round with the Bengals, when we thought the Ravens were going to be Super Bowl contenders for the next 5 years in 2019. Because the analytics told them, get more draft picks. No. Don't value having really good players. Get more draft picks. Oh, you're a franchise quarterback? Let's not sign him to a deal yet. I know Josh Allen just got his money, but let's wait and see if the market kind of calms down at quarterback because, if that's what the computer done told me to do. And then, honestly, if you look at their game-to-game thing, I could bring Sonny on, and Sonny can tell you every single mistake that he feels like the analytics headset has brought to the Ravens team. Now, again, there's a balance with analytics, right? You can use a lot of it. You can use a little of it. I think you can win with both philosophies. I don't think you need to have a ton of analytics to win. I don't think you need to have no analytics to win, but there's a balance, right? Baltimore lost sight of the balance. And when you lose sight of the balance, that's when you trade all of your good players for draft picks and you get progressively worse on one side of the ball. When you look at it that way, that's how you end up not paying a quarterback because you're just thinking about numbers and you're not thinking about actual football plays. And now you end up in Baltimore Ravens situation where they'd be lucky to get their quarterback back when most teams are able to extend their franchise quarterback. It's not that difficult to do. But now they'd be lucky to get him back. It's likely that they won't. They'll be starting Tyler Huntley, and they're probably going to be pretty mediocre this year. They analytic themselves to death. And that sometimes, going all the way back to the Nick Chubb thing, that is where you can get into trouble with it. When you're so deep in the numbers that you don't realize that you're saying we should trade Nick Chubb, a top 2 running back in the NFL, to save $26 million over 2 years and maybe a 3rd round draft pick. When you don't realize that's what you're doing and you're valuing the theoretical as much as what is actually real, that is when analytics goes too far. That is when you're working in theory instead of football. And the Baltimore Ravens should be the cautionary tale that they theoried themselves into a black hole. The Browns, I don't think they're that deep into it to where they're going to do that, clearly because they have no interest in trading Nick Chubb. But that's how you could do it, and that's why it's dumb. I hope that really long, roundabout answer maybe changed some people's minds who still thought that was a good idea. But that's it. Those are the April Fools. Oh my goodness. I can't believe we actually had these controversies. Controversies of the year. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have a good night.